Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you're coming from. Appreciate the opportunity to have my first live stream here on YouTube. And I figured a great topic to talk about is the new final beryllium rule, which is taking effect tomorrow on September 30th, 2020. So let's go ahead and get into the discussion here. And it's going to be a review that I'm going to be doing here. So before I start, I want to talk about a report that came out, actually a study that came out, and it's available in the Electronic Library of Construction, Occupational Safety, and Health. It's about a study that was done related to the potential for beryllium exposure from abrasive blasting operations using coal slag. And it was research that was conducted back in 2002 and 2004. The Center for Construction Research and Training set out to compare the potential for worker exposures to airborne toxins, particularly silica and metals, when abrasive blasting with three alternative abrasives were used: coal slag, steel grit, and hematite. Each summer during the study period, exposure sampling was conducted among painters who were doing abrasive blasting with one of the three abrasives on steel pedestrian bridges. Personal air monitoring was conducted for airborne respirable silica and metal concentrations by placing air sampling devices near the breathing zone of the workers. And for comparison study, samples were placed outside of the supplied area to try to get a comparison sample of the air. Now, the authors found that the use of coal slag was associated with the highest amount of dust generation, but the use of all three abrasives resulted in exposure to a range of metals, including arsenic, cadmium, chromium, lead, manganese, nickel, during all three repainting projects. They also found elevated levels of exposure to silica, which also was determined to result from the presence of silica in existing paint, an unexpected finding for them. Another unexpected finding of the study was that beryllium exposure is a concern when abrasive blasting is done with coal slag. So OSHA, Occupational Safety Health Administration, which is in North America, let's say in the United States with the states, OSHA has oversight when it comes to the occupational health and safety of craft workers. So from this initial study that was done in 2002 to 2004, the industry really started to look at, not only obviously in the past, in the 90s, we looked at lead and other type of hazardous materials when it comes to abrasive blasting and things like that. But also too, to look at such metals as beryllium. So let's go ahead and we'll go ahead right into the final beryllium rules. Now, this was an article that I'm just going to review with you. It is available in EHS Daily Advisor. Guy Burdick was the author, and it was published on August 31st of 2020. Let me go ahead and just go through this. But the article itself, and I will put the links to both the study and the links to this review that I'm doing right now. On August 31st, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, issued a final rulemaking. And again, I will list that rulemaking as well in the video description as well, related to the occupational exposure to beryllium and beryllium compounds in construction, general industry, and shipyard sectors, amending the construction and shipyard standards for beryllium exposures. Now that amendment is 85 FR 53910. The amendments take effect on September 30th, 2020. The August 31st rulemaking is the latest regulatory action to address concerns or about or objections to an 11th hour Obama administration rulemaking issued on January 9th, 2017. The new rulemaking retains the permissible exposure limits to 0.2 micrograms per cubic meter and short-term exposure limits to 2.0 micrograms in the 2017 final rule. Now, changes in the new rulemaking finalized changes proposed on October 8th, 2019. Notice of proposed rulemaking and closely resemble changes made to the general industry standard in a July 14th, 2020 final rule. However, the final rule tailors some of the requirements to exposures commonly found in construction and shipyards. OSHA published the amendments as proposed for hazard communication, housekeeping, hygiene areas, and practices, methods of compliance, record keeping, and respiratory protection. The final rule included amendments as proposed with some modifications for definitions, medical surveillance, personal protection clothing and equipment, and written exposure control plans. So you can see this is a major impact moving forward for contractors that perform abrasive blasting operations. The final rule amends the agency's definitions for chronic beryllium disease, which is called CBD, and confirmed positive, and adds a definition of beryllium sensitization. People become sensitized to beryllium, which leads to the potential for chronic beryllium disease. And on my channel, I had an episode related to that that you could go back and take a look at regarding that, and also related to a 2-minute lesson that I did as well. Take a look at that for additional information on CBD, and also being sensitive to beryllium when you become exposed to it. So it aligns definitions in the construction and shipyard standards with those in the general industry standard. The final rule defines beryllium sensitization as a response to the immune system in a specific individual who has been exposed to beryllium. Not every beryllium sensitized person will develop CBD. So again, keep this in mind. And this is something you can't just do a normal blood test. This has to be diagnostic tests that are done that are very in depth, a little bit more than just drawing blood and testing. Now, those who have been exposed to beryllium, not every beryllium sensitive person will get CBD, but beryllium sensitization is essential to the development of CBD, according to the agency. Beryllium exposure in construction and shipyards are limited to a few operations, such as abrasive blasting in construction and shipyards, and some welding operations in shipyards, according to OSHA. While airborne particulates during abrasive blasting operations can expose workers to beryllium in excess of the permissible exposure limits. The blasting materials contain only trace amounts of beryllium, according to the agency. Now, OSHA believes the process of materials do not present a dermal contact risk. The requirements for written exposure control plans in the construction and shipyard standards are limited to exposures for which the agency has strong evidence. Now, this regulation has been evolving over a number of years, and it's been widely debated and obviously talked about in our industry related to the protective coatings industry. So the final rule, and basically what we're looking at is that additional information. Okay, on September 30th, 2019, OSHA issued a final rule declining to revoke provisions of the construction and shipyard standards as it had proposed in June of 2017. So what I will do, like I said, I will link all the article from EHS. I'll talk about the study that was done related to 2000, in the early 2000s, and also put a link to the OSHA site regarding beryllium as well. I thank you so much to my subscribers, my followers on LinkedIn, also on Facebook. You guys are really, really encouraging me to continue doing this informational outreach, and it really helps me stay connected in the industry, but it also really in the mission that I have, not only working for the Society for Protective Coatings and really helping to educate, inform, but also engage as well with the industry. Now, for those of you who are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please consider subscribing to it. What I do is I review global topics. I go through a lot of innovative products and solutions that are out there by talking to professionals out there. My interviews that I do a lot of times related to professionals, it's great to understand exactly, what they have gone through in the industry to try to understand exactly what lessons you can get from them. And they offer a lot of great mentoring opportunities as well. I'm also going to be doing a little bit more on Facebook. Obviously, this is my first attempt at a live, and my dog was barking, so it's in real life, as they say. But look forward to seeing more stuff on Instagram TV. And then, again, depending on how things move forward through the merger process, in my role in the new organization, I'm probably going to look to take advantage of other types of media platforms like WhatsApp and things like that. So please subscribe to my channel, connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with me on Facebook, and hopefully you enjoy the content and the material I'm putting out there. I don't have anybody here to help me kind of go through questions that I have. But I'm looking here right now, and it looks like we have a couple people watching right now and no questions. But if you do have questions, please don't hesitate to send me an email message at jimkunkel, KUNKLE.com, or send me a message through LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. I will get you to the answer. I am not an expert nor a scientist or a medical person. So what I'm doing is I'm going to report what the others are reporting out there, especially when it comes from the environmental health and safety professionals out there who are reporting on topics related to beryllium, silica, and other type of respiratory concerns that can impact, obviously, contractors, but craft workers too, performing the abrasive blasting operations and things like that. So thank you very much for participating in my first live stream here. And hopefully you guys, everyone enjoyed it. Have a great day.